everyone, I'm Jessica Stutzman and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. Today we have Sarah Stalman, the Extension Leader from Penn State Sea Grant, to discuss the danger of aquatic invasive species in our community right here on the coast of Lake Erie. Sarah, thank you for joining us here again in the studio.
Thank you for having me yet again.
Yes.
It's great to be back.
And I'm so glad you're back. We have talked, I think, a lot about invasive species over the years. Its importance to talk about these things and, what our residents can do. But, sometimes the invasive species change. Sometimes, your tactics change, your messaging changes. So I just wanted to bring you back into the studio and go over all of those things again.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, good. Okay, so we are going to talk about first the Pennsylvania Sea Grant. Who is your organization? What do you do?
Yeah, so Pennsylvania Sea Grant is actually part of a national program. So it's all over the country. Any state that has shoreline, whether it's ocean, coastline, or Great Lakes shoreline, has a Sea Grant program in affiliation with a university. So we're affiliated with Penn State University, and we focus on things like research, education, and outreach on a number of different coastal environmental issues. So I focus a lot on aquatic invasive species, which is what I'm here to talk about today, but we also do things with climate resilience and climate change and watersheds and all different kinds of water quality based issues.
Yeah, and so obviously Lake Erie is such an important resource for us. It's our source of drinking water, it's our source of recreation, so important for the environment, all the ecosystems and habitats. What are invasive species?
So invasive species, I kind of have the definition as like a twofold thing. The first thing is that it's not something that's already here. So it has to be brought here. It could be something that's brought here naturally. Most of the time, though, it's going to be human mediated, most of the time through recreational activities and things like that. So once it's here, it then has to, we go to the second part of the definition, it has to cause some kind of harm. So it could be harm to an ecosystem through competition with native species or completely changing the habitat of an ecosystem. It could be impacts to the economy and our wallets through costing us money to treat and manage over time, and also health impacts. So it could be direct human health impacts through, a species maybe carrying pathogens, or the pathogen itself could be an invasive species, and also animal health as well.
I don't know if I've ever asked this question before. Where does your passion come from, your education come from? Why did you get involved in all of this?
That's a good question. I just knew from a really young age. I mean, growing up, I was always out in the streams. I was looking for crayfish. I was hiking. I was, looking for nature, and that was always just a huge part of who I am. And so, growing up, I knew I'm going to do something with biology or ecology. And so I ended up going to Penn State, have a background in biology, and then I ended up getting my master's at Shippensburg University in biology as well. And I really didn't know what I was going to be doing. And then I got connected with Sea Grant, and it's been an amazing opportunity to really learn all about the amazing things that Sea Grant does and the work that we do. And I've been there ever since. So
yeah, and that's perfect. The reason I like to ask too is because I feel like we have, some high school, some college students who watch these videos, and they don't know they know what they're interested in, like like you do when you're going into college. Like, okay, I'm passionate about this class or this focus, but sometimes you don't know what to do after that. And I like to try to provide that and kind of share like things that we've all been through and how we got to where we are. So thank you for that. Okay, going back to the aquatic invasive species, what are some ways that they spread?
Yeah, so invasive species can spread a number of different ways. Probably the main way, like I already said, is human-mediated recreation activities. So I know we're going to focus a lot on boats today, but some other things to think about when moving species is angling and bait. Bait is an issue in that invasive species can actually be hidden inside bait buckets. They can look like some of our native bait and minnow species. And so when people dump bait, that can actually introduce invasive species into the ecosystem. Another area that I think we actually focused on in one of our previous episodes was the pet trade and people that are releasing pets intentionally into the environment because they think that that's the right thing to do.
And what kind of pets are those?
So things like red-eared sliders, spider turtles, or any turtles that aren't native that you might have as a pet that get released. Goldfish and other fish can be released. Really anything in an aquarium that can become an aquatic invasive species out into the natural ecosystem, it can cause problems. And so I think sometimes people think a turtle's a turtle, but it's not. It's different.
And I would definitely recommend you go to PA Sea Grant's website for, again, all of those take-back programs. Your Facebook page is great for updating the community on those kind of events.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so are there any other common, and I'm just going to abbreviate, AIS hitchhikers?
Yeah, so like different species. So, when we're talking about vectors of spread and things like boating, so they're called aquatic hitchhikers because they hitchhike. They can attach onto things like boat motors, trailers, really any surface of equipment or clothing that touches the water. So this is where they get that nickname, aquatic hitchhiker. And the interesting thing about it, and kind of the negative aspect of that, is that they can actually survive out of the water for roughly 5 days, some species longer. So thinking about species like zebra mussels, zebra mussels can, attach onto hard objects, especially ones that maybe have been submerged in water over a period of time. So if those boats are then removed and transported to a new location, those zebra mussels can survive the drive. And then once they're re-emerged in water, they can survive. We also see a lot of plant species, aquatic invasive plants like hydrilla, Eurasian water milfoil, frogbit. There's a number of different invasive plants that can reproduce through fragmentation. So basically what that means is you could take off a piece of that plant, throw it someplace else, and it will start an entire new population. So we really worry a lot with boating and aquatic plants because you could just have the tiniest piece of fragment of plant on, a propeller or a trailer that you don't see, and you go to a new location, launch the boat, and then you've potentially introduced an invasive plant species.
Okay, and then I know we've talked about a couple other different species of mussels. The quagga mussel, is that one as well?
Yeah, so zebra and quagga mussels are actually cousins.
Okay.
They come from the same genus and they behave similar as far as their impacts. They filter the water. There's the misconception that they clean the water. They clear the water, but that can actually cause a lot of water quality issues by removing nutrients from the water, allowing sunlight to penetrate deeper. It can cause things like algal blooms and things like that, which is a whole different topic. But there's a huge impact to water quality. So they behave roughly the same. They're a little bit different in the shape of the shell and some of their tolerances, like they can tolerate softer substrates than zebra. But they're cousins, they're both here, they both have impacts.
Okay, and then what about the sea lamprey? Is that still an issue?
So sea lamprey, that's something that's here. It's here in the Great Lakes. It's a species that is native to the Atlantic Ocean. It would travel into freshwater to breed and go back out to the ocean. And historically, it was kept from Lake Erie by natural barriers, Niagara Falls. And then they built the Welland Canal, which opened up that barrier system for the sea lamprey to be able to get in and establish. There are treatment programs. They do a number of different things, like they have lampricides that they'll treat streams with lampricides. They do some hormone trapping and different things like that. So they're more under control than some of the other species, but we need consistent funding to keep it that way. But definitely one that's a little bit more of a success story, if you want to say that, than some of the other ones.
Okay, well, and speaking of reaching successes, and there's obviously mitigation that has to go into really tackling the invasive species here. So what is the Boat Steward program and how can they help?
Sure. So boat steward programs are one tool in the toolbox. I think they're one of the most important tools in the toolbox. This is an opportunity to really educate boaters out in the field when they're out there at boat launches and share information about invasive species. So other states like New York, if you head to the Adirondacks, Lake George, for example, they have regulations in place that you cannot launch a boat in Lake George unless you've had your boat inspected and you've had a tag that lets them know that you have a clean boat going into Lake George. Then on the way out, they give you another tag so that you can come back to Lake George and get back in without, going through the inspection program. If that tag is broken, meaning you launched someplace else, you have to inspect again. So Pennsylvania doesn't have that strict of regulations, but the Fish and Boat Commission just updated their aquatic invasive species regulations. So starting January 1st of this year, it is illegal to move invasive species on a boat.
Okay.
So it's even more important now than ever that we share this information, that you need to learn to clean, drain, dry. And boat steward programs are a way to do that. So essentially what they are is, a group of volunteers or people that are out at the launch talking with boaters, sharing information with them, helping them, check the different parts of your boat, like, check your motor, check your trailers, check these different areas, and remove invasive species.
Does the PA Sea Grant, do you coordinate those volunteers?
So we usually help other groups that coordinate volunteers. So there's a lot of lake associations, there's a lot of educational groups that have volunteers that they work with, have interns that they work with, maybe partners like Boy Scout and Girl Scout groups or Cub Scouts that are looking for opportunities to get involved with the community. We offer trainings, we offer resources, like how do you do this? How do you talk to people? What is the most important information to share so that we're helping? And this is something that is becoming more popular in our area.
Well, good. I'm so glad. And so if you are a boater, I think you can certainly expect to possibly be, approached to be educated. And if you want to be a volunteer, reach out. This is something that is a great education program. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Great Lakes AIS Landing Blitz?
Yes, so this is an opportunity to kind of exercise these boat steward and inspection programs. So this is an initiative that happens every single year. It is binational and regional. So the Great Lakes Blitz, although I will caveat that and say that Pennsylvania as a whole is a Great Lakes state, so even if there's events that are happening on the other side of the state, on the eastern part of the state, that still counts. So this is a time of year where there's about a 7 to 10 day span, usually around the 4th of July, which is a really busy boating season. So it's a really great time to get out there and talk to people, where we organize and we hold these events all throughout the state. And we get people out there on the ground. We do social media blitzing where we're sharing information on social media, but we're really trying to work together to organize these groups to go out and talk with boaters during that time period. It's a really, really great opportunity to really raise awareness.
Do you target like the marinas and the boat launches?
Boat launches, yeah. So like lake associations are great places to start, to find out are there groups that you work with? Do you have interns? Do you have, volunteers that you can, pull together, and we help to kind of provide the training, the resources, things that will help get through, and the interesting part about it is that, you don't have to be doing something through that whole period of time. You could do one event, and then all this data is collected all over the region, all throughout the Great Lakes, and it all is put together kind of into one spot to see how many people have been reached with AIS information, how many boats have been checked. And in previous years, we've been able to actually see how many species have been intercepted from boats by doing this program.
Well, and I love data for that reason, because when you collect the data and then you make change, you can then show in a subsequent year it's because of the outreach, or it's because we handed out certain promotional items or this or that. So the data is the hard evidence that showed the success of everything you've been working toward. So who can participate in the Landing Blitz? Can individuals, can organizations? There's, again, the Great Lakes, Lake Erie affects so many people. So, who should participate?
Anybody can participate. So, if you're already part of a group and think that your group might be, a good option. I know I've talked with some local fishing clubs where they're like, oh, we would love to get involved with this. If there's other groups, organizations, or if you're just an individual and you're looking for someone to connect with to do something like this, you can reach out to me and I can help connect you with someone to do this. If you're part of a lake association or you're part of any environmental group that's working in waters anywhere, it would be great to have, a really great diversity of people involved. And I'm really trying to spread the word and, spread this all throughout the state.
Yeah. And can I ask, if you are a boater watching, what are some best practices that we can do to make sure we are not transporting some of the AIS species?
Yeah, the best thing to remember is clean, drain, dry. These are very simple, quick, and easy prevention steps that anyone can do. They don't take a lot of extra time. The first one is really just using your eyes to look at your boats, your trailers, your kayaks, your equipment, really anything that's touched the water. It could be clothing, to make sure that there's nothing stuck to it. There's no hitchhikers there. There's nothing being transported, and just removing them. And it's becoming easier and easier as these types of programs spread. If you're at a boat launch, a lot of them are starting to incorporate pull-off stations specifically for invasive species. There's units called CD3 units where you can actually use air to blow off boats, and then there's like little stations where you can dispose of things that you might pull off your boat. So it's getting more common and acceptable to be doing these things. So
and anything that's, I think, easy for people to do is the easier and less complicated it is.
Right.
The more you're able to do it. Without even thinking.
Exactly.
So what other resources can we give our viewers? You've got a great booklet here. Yeah. Is there any sort of technology we can use on our phone? How do we follow up?
Yeah, so one of the resources that I brought, this has been around for a little while. We've done a couple iterations of it, but this is something that can help with invasive species identification. Mm-hmm. There's like more than 65 species in here that either we have in Pennsylvania or we're concerned about getting. Can teach you where they're from, where you can look for them, how to identify them. And we've made this into smartphone apps. Mm-hmm. So we have both Apple and Android versions. Mm-hmm. So this is really useful if you're doing one of those programs and you want to know what you're finding. It can help you identify. And the apps are really nice because you can actually report directly from the app. Mm-hmm. So if you're out doing a program or you're out doing anything and you see something suspicious, you can snap a picture and there's a report function right on the app, and you can go ahead and submit that. And so you can find that at PAAIS Field Guide in either of the stores.
Okay, perfect. And where do we get the this booklet here?
You can reach out to me and ask for copies. Mm-hmm. We do give out copies of this pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email and we can mail something out to you.
Yeah. And can we flip this booklet open?
Sure.
I just want to show our viewers what it looks like on the inside and maybe how you would go about identifying something.
Yeah, sure. So I just opened up to spiny water flea. So this is one of the species that is in the book. It kind of tells you a little bit about the species just overall. It gives you a diagram for kind of key characteristics to look for. Mm-hmm. If you see something like that, identification tips, a lot of times they're similar species. So you might see something that it has a look-alike. Mm-hmm. It'll tell you how to distinguish that so you can tell that what you're looking at really might be this invasive species. Different habitats you can find it in, how they spread, where they are, and we do have it broken out by county in Pennsylvania as a state, so you'll know if it's something that is found where you live or not.
Okay, great. And I love that I can follow up with an app because my favorite thing to do is identify things that I don't know. And so if I can snap a picture of it and somebody can tell me what it is, for some reason it gives me a peace of mind. So
yes,
thank you for that. And the app is very easy to use as well?
Yes, so the app is really easy to use. It's essentially exactly like this, just in a digital form. So you can access all of the information. Like I said, you can report right from the app. If you have your geolocation services turned on, it will do that so that it knows where you're taking the report from as well. So all that information gets sent to myself and also the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator at the Fish and Boat Commission. So this really helps with early detection. So the sooner we find new infestations, the quicker we can take action and have a chance of either being able to control or eradicate it before it gets out of control. And then it's really expensive and time consuming to do.
And so are there any prevention methods that you need to take as far as PAC grant that helps stop species before they get here, or at least slow them down?
Yeah, so I realized when I kind of said clean, drain, dry, I talked about clean, but I neglected the other two, so I'm just going to go back for a second. And kind of go back to like the boating and angling prevention pieces, which are extremely important. And draining things means not carrying water. So we talked a little bit about zebra mussels, for example. When they're young, they're microscopic. So, once they emerge from the egg, they kind of free float in the water for like a 2-week period before they settle and get a shell. You would never see them. So things like that can be in a bait bucket that you don't even see, or in a bilge or a live well. And then, if you carry that water elsewhere and release it, then you've potentially introduced something. So you always want to make sure that you drain before you leave an area. So that's another really good prevention step to be thinking about. And also drying. So again, these are aquatic species, so they live in water. So if you can dry your equipment, usually the recommendation is that 5 days. For non-absorbent materials, that is typically good enough to desiccate something. If you have something like felt-soled waders or something that really sucks in water and holds onto it, it's a little bit longer. It's, you wait till it's bone dry and then give it like another 48 hours. That's a little bit tougher, but those are things that you can do, the clean, drain, dry, to really focus on prevention, and they make a huge impact.
Wonderful. Well, Sarah, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. Again, refreshing our memory on aquatic invasive species. Again, just such an important topic to bring up every single year, especially going into our summer months.
Yes, thank you so much for putting such an emphasis on this important issue and helping to get the word out.
Of course. Viewers, again, we talked a lot about the aquatic invasive species here in Lake Erie, what some of those were, and it's really, really important that you either reach out to Sarah and you get the aquatic invasive species manual, or you download the app. All of this helps add to their research, and then in return, comes back as an important investment into Lake Erie. So I want to thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a great day.